Hey, welcome back to another episode of Camp and Camera. Today we're going to knock the light installation out. Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's good to have you back. If you're a repeat watcher, if you're new, welcome to the build of the Camp Easy 5945 teardrop. Hey, something big happened since the last episode, and I could not be more excited about it. The channel hit 1,000 subscribers just a few days ago. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. It's good to have you watching every week. Hopefully we'll make some great content that you can enjoy in the future. But thank you for taking the channel to 1,000 subscribers. In this episode, we're going to try to finish out the light installation. We've been working on it for the last three episodes, and it really wasn't that big of a job. But gee whiz, my wife's car went down, cooling fan went out in it, refrigerator went down, and our clothes dryer went down all at the same time. So I had 3 other projects to work on while I was working on the light. So it probably wouldn't have took this long otherwise. But today we're going to try to knock this out. I'm going to run the wires through some conduit to protect those under the frame, put that under the frame. Then I'd like to, talk a little bit about some of the things that I found that worked well and some that didn't. So let's get started on knocking these lights out. So I'm going to use some, I think it's 1/2 inch, it could be 5/8, but I think it's 1/2 inch flexible wire conduit. And I'm going to start at the very back of the camper and start putting my wires in that and fasten it to the floor, and then taking it around the front, just going along the frame. So here, I wrap the wires going to the tail light in the flexible conduit and tape those to the bracket. So after all the conduit was ran, I went back and I put some liquid electrical tape, or it's just called liquid tape, over all of the ground wire connections. I used 1/4 inch ring terminals on a ground off and drilled spot on the frame, and I know that's probably going to rust at some point, so I just sealed that off with some liquid electrical tape. I bought that at Lowe's in the electrical department. Hopefully that'll hold up pretty well and keep it from rusting. Also, anywhere that I had to drill a hole in the frame, like for the side marker lights to run the wires through, I went back and sealed that hole up, or filled that hole up with some Trim Pro 635 sealant. It kind of turns to a soft rubber, and that'll keep the wires embedded in soft rubber instead of just slinging around and hitting the sides of that sharp drilled hole. Shouldn't have to worry about getting the wires chafed. Okay, so now all of the lights have wiring ran back to the 7-lug box on the tongue and have been tied in. So now it's just a matter of making sure they work. So let's go plug each one of them into a battery to make sure they turn on. I've got a little 3-cell lithium battery pack that I use for my RC airplanes. I just tested it. It's running a little over 12 volts, so that'll be similar to what a tow vehicle will be. I made up a pigtail that plugs into it. And the other end of the pigtail I've plugged into my 7-pin wire harness. Using a wiring diagram, I know where the ground wire should go and where the power to the running light should go. I've got that plugged in there. So now I'll just plug the battery in. And here's my front running light. It is turned on. My left running light or tail light is on. The 3 marker lights in the middle of the camper at the rear are on. And the right brake light is on. And the last running light is on. So that circuit is working great. Let's check out the brakes. Okay, the left brake light is on. And that's all I have plugged in right now is the left brake light. Which is also the left signal light, and that's working well. And the right brake light / turn signal is on. We're good there. On a previous episode, I mentioned that I put a third brake light on top of the galley, and it happened to be a combination brake light. It had a running light that would stay on constantly, and then it would just get brighter when I applied the brakes. Well, it turns out that the running light was very, very bright. So bright, in fact, that when you applied the brakes, even though it got brighter, it didn't get a whole lot brighter. And I don't want people to think that my brakes are on all the time, because when I do hit the brakes, I want them to know it. So I ended up disconnecting the running light feature on that third brake light. And I only have the brake light feature connected. There's probably going to be some LED lights out there that would have worked better. Maybe some that would have ran dimmer on the running function. But for me, I'm just decided to go ahead and let it, be completely off until I hit the brakes. So let me pull this hatch down and show you what I've got. So this is the third brake light. Right now it's off. I'm going to plug in the wires for the left signal / brake light and the right signal / brake light, and those will be running through the Curt converter box that I showed you in a previous video. If all goes well, plugging those two in at the same time should give me a third brake light. So thumbs crossed, or fingers crossed. So I'm just going to use a jumper wire, and I'm going to jump between the left brake and turn signal and the right brake and turn signal. So I've got power going to both of those now. So let's see if it works. Yeah, everything's working great. So looks like the Curt brake controller is going to work perfect. And that's kind of funny because I actually called the Curt company and explained what I wanted to do. And the tech services guy that I spoke with said, absolutely not. What you're wanting to do won't work. He gave me a reference to a product sold by a competitor that would work, but he said that the one that I bought, the part I bought, would not work. I thought about it, and I thought, gosh, I know he works there, but it has to work. And I did a little more research on the internet, and oddly enough, somebody was wanting to do the same thing I was. They wanted to add a third brake light on a camper that already had an existing wiring system. And a representative of E-Trailer said, yeah, buy the Curt converter and it'll work just fine. So looks like E-Trailer was right, and it's working good for me. So it looks like the Curt controller is working. What I just did is I ran the ground wire from the battery to the ground on the 7-pin plug. I ran the hot wire to the left tail light, and then I ran a jumper from the left tail light to the right one, and I just manually tapped it on and off. Sure enough, the third brake light stayed steady, the left brake light stayed steady, and the right brake light, or right signal light, pulsed. So it looks like it's going to work just fine. Well, I'm so glad about that too. After buying the thing and installing it, sure hate to have to start over, from scratch. So I'm glad it's working. So with the verification of the third brake light, and knowing that converter box is working, hey, all the lights are running good. The marker lights in the front and the rear are running. Brake lights, turn signals are functioning as they're supposed to. So yeah, it looks like the light part of the project is now wrapped up. One thing I would like to mention though, and if I build another teardrop camper, and I'm thinking seriously about doing so, just because I enjoy it, I will probably pull the frame into my workshop, put it up on some sawhorses, get it up at waist level, comfortable working height, and I think I will wire my lights and my brakes and all that stuff then, when it's a bare frame sitting in my workshop. Having to crawl around underneath a finished camper and running wires and conduit. That stunk. That just absolutely stunk, especially for a big guy like me. So I think if I build another one of these campers, hey, I'm going to pull this thing in the workshop, the frame, get all that stuff out of the way. I know that I won't be able to actually do all the finish wiring, you know, making up all the ends, but I can roll them up in a nice little roll and tape them to the frame. On this one, you know, I screwed the flexible conduit to the floor. That still wouldn't be a problem. I could just tape the conduit to the frame until I'm ready to screw it to the floor. But hey, I think that's the way to go. But right now, my lights are finished. Technically, I could hook this thing up to the back of my truck and take it down the road and go camping. So that's pretty exciting to know I'm that far along. I did buy brakes and brake hardware to install on the camper. I plan on doing that. Folks say on the internet that you don't need them. Some folks say you do. I'm going to err on the side of caution and go ahead and put them on there. Shouldn't take more than a couple leavings to knock that out. I have a little bit of finish work left on the bedroom or the cabin. Couple coats of polyurethane and a few pieces of trim. I'm thinking 3-4 evenings after work. So I'm getting pretty close. I'm probably a couple weeks away from having it done, if nothing else breaks down around the house anyway. So, hey, appreciate you watching this episode. If this is your first time here, thank you for joining us. Hit that subscribe button. And hey, until next time, take care. We'll see you on the road. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, my push mower died on me too. How crazy is that?